Hello, my name is Kainton Mononye. I'm the computer engineer. Actually, my area of specialization is software engineering. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining how to create SOAP web service in Visual Studio 2013. The same steps I'm going to explain here apply to Visual Studio 2008, Visual Studio 2010, and Visual Studio 2015 as well. My name is Kainton Mononye, as I said before. So we are going to look at the following 5 areas. The first thing we are going to discuss, I'll give a brief overview of what web services is all about. Try to find my previous tutorial. I discussed REST web services, but here I'm going to give an overview again of what SOAP web services, or what web services generally is all about. Then we are going to take these 4 steps. We are going to pitch into our Visual Studio, and then we are going to take step 1, create a solution. Step 2, create a web service or add a web service to the solution we've created. And step 3, we test the web service. And finally, we create we call the web service from a website. We are going to build a completely different website and then calling the web service that we've created. So I made this simple slide to explain the importance of web service. A web service allows you to connect or to access data or functions in a totally different application. That is, you're able to call functions or methods in another application as if they were local applications, right? So if you have an application sitting here in Houston, Texas, maybe you want to access the weather services or the exchange rate services, and you now have your application development developing application here in Akokwa, Imo State, Nigeria. There is a location in Nigeria. No, you can actually call functions in this application in Houston, thousands of miles away. In between, we have the web service. So how can web services help us to do this? So let's go first to Visual Studio. We build a web service, right? And then we are going to build another application and then call the web service we've created. So do follow along as we start. So I have Visual Studio 2013, my system, Ultimate. So the first thing, just go to File and go to New Website, and then choose WCF Service. Sorry, you need to run Visual Studio as an administrator. So just right click, run as administrator. Okay. I do need to run as administrator because I need to save this application in the root directory of my C drive. That is the web server directory. So File, New. I'm going to call this service Demo Service. Let's just call it Demo Service. Create a website. For now, if you create a website or a web application, there is no problem. So choose this. I want to save in my local IIS. Just come here and say create new web application, and I want to call it Demo Service. Okay, let's call it Temp Service. Temp Service, because I will actually use it to convert temperature from degrees centigrade to Fahrenheit and vice versa. So I'm calling it Temp Service in the root directory, and that is where I'm going to save this solution. So go ahead to say OK. So at this point, we've created a solution that will hold our web service. Of course, you have a default web service created here with name service.sbc. I have this iService.cs. At a different video, I'm going to explain this iService. I stand for interface, and I'm going to explain it later. But this is not what we are going to use. take note that we've been able to complete the first step and the fourth step. We've created a web service solution, and this is what will actually hold our web service. So the next step is to create the web service. So to create the web service, you simply right click on your project, okay, and just say add, and just say new item, right? You say new item and just browse for web service. Take note that I'm using C# as my language. If you are using Visual Basic, you're comfortable with it, no problems. So to create a SOAP web service, go ahead to choose web service, ASMX. That is the extension. Go ahead to choose web service, ASMX. So I want to call it converts, because I'm going to use the service to convert from degree centigrade temperature from degree centigrade to degree Fahrenheit and vice versa. So go ahead to add this to your solution. Okay, so after that you have the two files, convert.cs, and you also have convert.asmx, right? Good. So now let's work on convert.cs. That is actually where we are going to write our codes. So here we have web method, we have a method. So this method can actually be called from anywhere, right? So if I go ahead to click on convert and I run this application, let's see what happens. Okay, so actually there is a default a method there in the default service that has been provided here. So here you have the application running. So you have hello world. Hello world is actually a web method, right? A method that can be called from outside this application. So if I click on it, it comes here. I can say invoke. It returns XML, and the XML contains the string hello world. Take note that a SOAP web service works only with XML, and when we look at REST web services, we can see how we can use JSON, plain text, or other request formats to work. So this is calling or invoking the web service, and we have a response. But this is not what we are saying. We want to create our own web service with our own web methods that can actually take a temperature and convert it to centigrade, degree centigrade, or convert it to degree Fahrenheit. So let's go to the code and then we write our own. The first thing you are going to do is to just say we are building this method, call it has to be a web method. If it's not a web method, then it can be called from outside. So the first function or method I'm going to build, I'm going to call it is a function that returns double. I call it Fahrenheit to Celsius. Okay, so it takes temperature in Fahrenheit, and then is going to return the temperature in Celsius. So what you are going to return based on the calculation or from the formula, it returns Fahrenheit minus 32, okay, times 5 divided by 9. Okay, so this is the formula to convert degree Fahrenheit to Celsius. So I'm going to write another method. Let's call it web method. Okay, and then I'm going to call it is a public double, this time Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay, so it takes temperature in Celsius. Okay, so having done this, so the formula to do the conversion is Celsius, what you pass in, times 9 is actually kind of the reverse of the previous formula. So you say plus 32. Okay. Alright, so we've succeeded in creating the web methods, and then our web service is good to go. So I'll go ahead to click on save to save everything. So right now I'm going to test the web service. So I go ahead to click on run. Let's see what happens. So right now you can see 3 services. You can go ahead to look at the service description. This doesn't make much sense, but you can always see the names here. Okay, Celsius to Fahrenheit, Fahrenheit to Celsius, but that is not the point. So now we have 2 functions we've written, or 2 methods that can be called from the outside. So let's go ahead to test to see how it goes. If we click on this, it tells us enter a value in Celsius. Let's say 100. Let's invoke. We have 212. So we have an XML response that gives us the conversion. So it's as simple as that. So you can write a whole lot of complex function and be sure that the return value will be returned to you after the calculation is done. Let's try out the first one, Celsius to Fahrenheit. Alright, so enter 100, invoke. Okay, this is the one we clicked on before. If we go ahead to take the second one, Fahrenheit to Celsius, enter 100, I say invoke, 97.78 and return as XML. Okay, so we've gone ahead to test this web service. So how do we use this in an application? So that brings us to the 4th step. Let's take a look at where we are. Sorry, I actually want to show this. Okay, I want to show the PowerPoint presentation. Maybe you are going to minimize this too. Okay, so this, we've created a solution, created a web service, we've tested the web service, and now we are going to build an application that will enable us test this, use this web service. So let's just pretend that we are building another application somewhere else that will call this web service and then use it. Alright, so to do that we are going to create a totally new website outside this solution completely. So what we are going to do now is to go ahead to create a new website. Alright, so it's going not a service this time, but just a website. So I'm going to create ASP.NET Web Forms site. Okay, ASP.NET Web Forms site. I can go for an empty website. Okay, let's take an empty website. I like to save it in my root directory. Let me save it in a different place. A totally new web application, remember, and I'm going to call it temp site. Remember, the first one was temp service, and this I'm calling it temp site, and say OK. I would like to go ahead to just add a single page on this website. So add a new item. just a single waveform there. Okay, just I leave it the name as default. Okay, so give it a title, testing our web service. Okay, so that is it. So in the body, this is to test our web service. Okay, so I'd like to test this application to show you that it's going to show a blank page. Good. So this website is going to call our web service and do calculation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a table. I'm going to insert a table of 3 rows and 2 columns. That will be fine. Okay, so in row 1 I'll say temperature in degrees, in Fahrenheit. Okay, let's just say, sorry, I would like to make this a little. This is not the right way to do things. You need to use div tags, but just for demo purposes I'm going to do it this way for now. Okay, so 2 more rows. So here I'll tell the user enter temperature, okay, enter temperature, and I'm going to put a text box to allow the user to enter the temperature. Okay, and that is just fine. And that is just fine. I'm going to put a button that says I want to merge this. So I'll put a button that clicks, user clicks to do the conversion. Okay, so I now say temperature in Celsius. Okay, temperature in Fahrenheit. Okay, so now I'm going to just add a label that will display the temperature in Celsius and Fahrenheit. So the first one displays the temperature in Celsius, right? So I'm going to call it the first one. I'm going to give it a name. Temperature test box. Okay, and this one I'll call it Fahrenheit. I'll call it Celsius level, and the other one I'm going to call it Fahrenheit level. So I'll call this one Celsius level. Okay, and then there'll be no text on it. I'm going to delete the text on it completely. So the next one I'm going to call it Fahrenheit level, and I don't need a text on it. I'm going to call it Fahrenheit level. Fahrenheit level, and that is just fine. Okay, so this button I'm going to call it btn convert, and I'm going to give it a name, a caption or a text convert. Okay, permit me to align this table to the center. I don't know, but I think just click justify sentinel. Just go to the code behind. I want to say align equals center. That's all. Though this is not the standard way of doing it. I'll always use CSS. So having done this, I'm going to write a code here. But before I do it, I'm going to add a reference to the service in this website. The service we previously created in the system in a different solution altogether. I'm going to add a reference to it because without this reference to this service, you will not be able to use it. So what you are going to do, just right click and say add, right? Just say add service reference, and then you go to advanced, because what we are going to add is a web reference. So go ahead to click web reference. So the location is, it always has to be a URL, HTTP. I stored it in my local machine, local host. Remember the name of the web service, we called it a temp service, you remember? And then converts.asmx. So let's search this location, this directory, to see if we can see this web method. So just click on go. So there it is. So these are the three services we created initially. So it's giving a name, web reference name, localhost. No problem. Let's just leave it at localhost. And go ahead to click add reference. You click on add reference, a new folder is created that says app web references. Okay. So let's now go and write a code to call the methods in the web service we created previously. So how to do it? Just go ahead to use this reference here as if it were a class. So what you are going to do, you say localhost.convert, okay, localhost.convert ws convert. What it means is that this ws convert, right, is the web class, a class that contains the methods, equals new localhost.convert. Okay. So after creating this, we can now say create declare temperature to be, I'm going to convert whatever is in the text box to double. So I'm going to say convert dot to double. I'm going to convert temperature text box dot text, right? So this is a temperature gotten from the text box, right? So having gotten, I got this temperature from the text box. So I want to display the Fahrenheit in the Fahrenheit value in the Fahrenheit label and the Celsius value in the Celsius label. So I can easily say Fahrenheit label dot text equals, okay, equals ws convert dot Celsius to Fahrenheit, and I pass in the temperature value gotten from the text box. And same for wow, it's giving me, okay, it say it can't convert the string. So what I'm going to do, just say the string, and that's all. Solves the problem. Okay, so to display the temperature in Celsius, can say Celsius label the text equals WS convert dot Fahrenheit to Celsius and temperature, right, dot to string, and that beats it. Alright, so what happens is if we run this program or this application, we're going to enter a value in the text box, and the web service is going to be called, remember we are not writing any formula here, the web service is going to be called to convert to either Celsius or Fahrenheit. So let's now go ahead to run this and see what we've got. Okay, so enter temperature, let's say 100, and see if it works. Ah, it worked. So it's calculated the temperature in Celsius and the temperature in Fahrenheit. So this is how to create a SOAP web service, and we've succeeded to create it, and it worked. So we've gone through the 4 steps of creating a web service. Please, if this video is difficult, please pause it, try to rewind it if necessary, and try to understand exactly what happened. If you want, you can request for the code. I can just put in the comments below that I should send you the code. Can always send the code across to you. And also, I would like you to subscribe to my channel. You can like this video. On the comment down there, tell me what you want to see, what improvement you want me to make. And I would like to thank you for viewing, hoping that this video has been very informative for you. Expect my next video, and that is how to create web service, a REST web service in Visual Studio. Thank you for viewing.